Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we're not doing a review, we're doing a comparative video where we're going to call it, Who Did It Better? Is it SOTA or JADA? I asked you guys if you wanted to see a video like this recently, and overwhelmingly the response was, yes, please do the video. And I'm gonna give you all the information I can to help you decide which company did it better. We're gonna start with Guile because I had him handy, and I think it's a good comparison. In fact, Guile's one of the better SOTA figures, if you ask me, and he's also one of the better JADA figures, so I thought it would be a good place to start. So we're gonna go ahead and get them off the stand and take a closer look. Alright, so before we get into too much of the detail stuff, I want to just do like a quick overview. For those of you that don't know, SOTA, S-O-T-A, stands for State of the Art Toys. They came out like 20 years ago. Not necessarily literally, depending on which wave or which figure you're talking about, but it was about 20 years ago. And the JADA one, I don't think that stands for anything. JADA one just came out just recently. So we're talking about a 20-year difference. This guy is the old one, by the way. That's the SOTA figure. This is the JADA figure. If you're not familiar, I have reviewed both of them. I'll put the links in the description below or up there in that corner. All right, so they both are basically the same price point. I mean, adjusted for inflation and whatnot. The SOTA figures came in at like usually 10 to 15 bucks. At the time, that was a full price 6-inch or 1/12 scale figure price. It was a good value for the price. And JADA's doing the same thing at their 25 bucks, I guess, for them. They're basically both hitting the same price point given the context of the industry and whatnot at the time of their release. So for pricing, you really can't get much of a better comparison from two companies here. It's a very interesting thing, I think, going on, actually. And interestingly enough, also, these guys were some of the absolute best figures you could buy at the time, maybe still, for that price point, for that style and everything like that. These guys are doing the same thing now. So you really couldn't get a better comparison. So I think this should be a fun series. If you guys like it, let me know in the comment section below. Also give the video a thumbs up and let me know if you want me to do more videos like this. Now, this is not scripted at all. I haven't looked at this figure in forever, and this guy I just reviewed, but I'm pulling him out and we're gonna just kind of go at it and see what we can come up with. I'll try to compare as many different aspects of the figures as I can. We'll start with the packaging. I don't have them on here because I don't have Guile's packaging, but I'll put the images up for both. They both have really good packaging. They both are kind of industry standard at the time. The more plastic used in the SOTA figures was standard at the time, and then obviously we have the more cardboard used for the JADA figure. I personally prefer the SOTA look. It was just more colorful, more bright, more vibrant. More plastic is better than more cardboard if you ask me in terms of displayability and just fun, but that's really a personal thing. There's no way for me to rank who did it better for packaging because it's really subjective and they're too different from the different time periods. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get into the figures. I think it would be better to start with what they come with, accessory-wise. Okay, so they do both have a normal head and an action head, let's say an angry head, something like that. So that's a wash so far. For hands, they both come with fist hands. They both come with a set of hands and a comb for brushing the hair. So far, that's a wash. As far as effect parts go, the SOTA one comes with the sonic boom things that clip onto his hands as if he's getting ready to throw the boom. And the JADA one comes with the sonic boom that has already been released and a little stand to hold it up. I'm going to call that a wash. JADA's has more plastic. I think SOTA's is more fun, but that's purely subjective. They still both come with effect parts that are usable, so I'm going to call that a wash. There is one extra accessory for the SOTA one, therefore he wins. He gets the thumb up hand. Hey, it's a slight edge, but he gets it. So I'm going to say SOTA did accessories better. Of course, you can pick which things you prefer, but they have one more accessory in the grand scheme of things. All right, and by the way, I'm going to put this out there. I don't have a personal winner in mind yet. As far as like the objectiveness. Subjectively, I do have one, but I'm going to give you guys all the information. You can decide for yourself. I know I'm going to piss people off no matter what I say about either figure. Some people are diehards for either line, and so I'm going to be going back and forth, pissing people off. So you know what? I'm just willing to take that heat, I guess. Now, as far as the sculpt goes, obviously very different styles. This one is a much more let me start, I guess, by saying they're both very stylized. Okay, neither of them are realistic really at all. But this guy is definitely more along the lines of a higher detail, higher level of realism, despite the styling. So let's go ahead and take a look at him, and then we'll take a look at the JADA and see what we can come up with. So this guy seems to be based on some artwork more so than sprites or anything like that, and he does have a very, very nice sculpt, except for a few areas where I think it's really lacking. Now do keep in mind, these are all sculpted by hand. And then the JADA ones I do believe are digital sculpts, so just keep that in mind. I don't know how that really plays into it, but I mean in terms of which is better or not, but keep that in mind. Alright, so his shoulders are janky as hell. I don't know why JADA did that. They did that on a lot of the shoulders. They're just balls, which is nice functionally, but they're balls with scratch marks on them. Not a good look. Not a good look. I do really like the way they've sculpted the head. It's a stylized but detailed, sort of realistic, stylized look, I guess. There's not really any other way I can describe that. It has realistic details, but the overall aesthetic is very stylized, and I think that's a good look. For the chest and torso, I think very few companies have made as good looking chests and torsos as SOTA, and I think that's because the guy sculpting these figures was very into referencing like bodybuilders and things like that, so you get a lot of meat. The shoulders are set back from the head and neck, which is a very good look. That's the way you want to be for somebody built like this. There's a lot of thickness front to back, and even side to side. You can see you get this dip in here under the pecs along where the serratus muscles and the lats connect, so that gives them a very, very powerful muscular look, and we have the kind of stylized wrinkles scattered around the sculpt of the shirt. So I think their sculpt is great overall. We do have weirdness. His arms, like, I get that you're supposed to have shorter upper arms than lower arms. That's normal for men, but his is maybe a bit much. His arms do seem maybe a bit exaggerated in length. I think a lot of that has to do with just the way the articulation is cut, but it is worth noting he probably needed a little bit more bicep. And then for the pants and legs, the sculpting for the wrinkles and stuff, very nicely done. He does not have texturing on any of his clothing though, so you're not going to get any of that. But what is sculpted there is nicely done. There's a few stitches and things like that, but no real texturing. And then lastly, we have the boots, which are fully detailed. That's an incredible sculpt, especially for the time period. To pull off at this scale, at this price point, very, very, very nicely done. His boots, let's see if we can keep him in focus. His boots are just excellent. Very nicely done. So his sculpt is good with a few weirdnesses, but also really, really well executed. Now this guy, on the other hand, kind of went in a different direction. They went full on, like, cartoony, stylized, like almost a Pixar version of Street Fighter, which is a strange choice, I think, and I have seen in my comments lots of people agree. It's fine because it's consistent throughout the line, but it is a very stylized choice. If you did not know better, if you were just brand new to action figures and you saw both of these figures on the shelf, I'm not willing to say that you would pick one of these over the other as the newer figure. Obviously, if you're looking at articulation and stuff, this guy looks older, but in terms of the paint and sculpt and everything, I think you would be hard-pressed to choose the JADA as the figure that's 20 years newer. Keep in mind, 20 years. So anyway, this guy is very soft in the sculpt. Let's call it soft. That's the best way of doing it. It's consistent, and so that's fine, but there's not a whole lot to really talk about on the sculpt, honestly. It's very, very, very soft. If you like that more, that's totally your call. I'm not making a judgment call, I'm just letting you know. He is lacking detail. He has the textured clothing, benefit of the digital sculpting, very easy to just pop a texture on there. His pants are textured, his shirt is textured. We don't get the texture in the boots, really at all. There's some details in there, but mostly it's a very, very soft sculpt. The overall anatomy of this guy is fine, but again, it is kind of like a Pixar version. We have wrinkles in the clothing, that's all good. The anatomy for the musculature is there. Again, it's soft, but it's all there. He doesn't have just the scratches in the arms for the shoulders, but then we are missing a lot of the detail. For instance, in the torso, you can see the differences in the muscles. Or even in the face, the facial structure, the cheekbones, the little wrinkles around the mouth, all of it. I mean, there's a significant difference here. The forearms, you can see there's more sculpt going on with the SOTA figure. So, we're going to save the aesthetic rating, I think, overall. Well, you know what? I can do Sculpt. I'm going to say SOTA wins the Sculpt. I don't think it's even close. There's just not even enough Sculpt to talk about for the JADA. It doesn't have much going on in terms of detail at all, other than the texture on the clothing, which kind of doesn't even count. Even the hair sculpt, significantly different. Significantly more detail for the SOTA figure versus the JADA figure. And the JADA did theirs in a two-piece. Theirs is one piece of yellow plastic for the hair, one piece of plastic for the head. SOTA's is all one piece and painted. So I think SOTA takes the Sculpt by a mile, personally, with a few caveats, which I think they definitely need to be noted. Now, in terms of paint, let's talk about the paint. We're going to lead with the SOTA again. It's the older figure, and I think some of you probably don't even know it exists. So we're going to lead with him. He is covered in paint, literally. I think all of these figures have nothing but paint on them. I don't think there's bare plastic. But you can see there's shading throughout every part of his skin tone. There is shading. Is it the most well-executed shading ever? Certainly not. And on some figures, if you rotate the arms, you can see missed spots. He doesn't happen to have that. But he does have shading throughout all of his skin tone, and that's very good. He has shading throughout all of his green on his jacket. Jacket? What am I talking about? I just reviewed a figure with a jacket. On his tank top. He doesn't have shading in his belt or in his pants or anything from here down. But he does have, I believe, a wash. Yeah, it looks like a wash in the boots. And obviously his version of camo, or SOTA's version of camo for the pants. So yeah, his paint job is excellent. It beats any figure I've seen at the standard 6-inch price point. His American flag is somewhat lacking. It is not fully detailed, and it looks only okay. So let's look at the face, I guess, up close too. I think the eyes on this figure in particular, SOTA has a few really, really standouts. This is one of them. That paint job on the face is excellent. For a 20-year-old figure, get the heck out of here. Get the heck out of here. So Guile's paint for the SOTA figure is wonderful. For the JADA figure, well, once again, there's not a lot for me to comment on. They did a camo paint job, which is a good camo. I would argue it's probably better camo, but worse applied. You can see it's real fuzzy looking. There's lots of little spots and holes in there that don't look great. So it could be a better camo. I'm not going to say for sure, but I think it is a better camo than this one. Well, I don't know. It's a different camo at least. It's not better applied. As for shading, he does have shading throughout, but it's a different style of shading, and it's a lot more subtle, but it is there, so I'll give him that. The detail paintwork, though, is better on the shoulders, for sure. The flag is a much better flag, though the blue is a little bit off. It's a much better flag. And on the face, well, it's clean, and it's technically about the same, other than there's a lack of shading here. So I'll give the faces a tie, I guess. I don't like the styling here personally, but they are equally well executed, probably, but maybe not. I want to talk about the hair briefly. This Guile has shading in the hair. Makes it look really nice. The hair is painted and shaded. This Guile has yellow plastic. Okay. So the painting is questionable for the JADA figure, for sure, compared to this figure. And then in terms of the overall color scheme, this Guile has a very nice skin tone, and the darker green, the better overall composition, I think. This one has a very yellow and semi-transparent skin tone, obviously because of the bare plastic, and you can take this lighter color scheme if you like it or not. Both of them have been accurate. I prefer this one, but both are perfectly reasonable to have. So we have that for the paint, and then I think last thing we need to talk about for the aesthetic is the necklace, the dog tags. I will say that SOTA's appears to be too long. I don't think that would be a good place to have that. It's too long. JADA's balls are slightly smaller, which is a good thing for this scale. Their dog tags are one piece, one plastic piece hung onto the metal. SOTA's are two pieces. I could go either way. I think I will make that a draw. They both have their benefits as far as the tags, but I would say probably JADA's is the overall winner because of the smaller balls and smaller length. Although I do kind of personally like the longer length on this one. The shorter one might look weird, but they do seem really, really long. Okay, so let's talk about the overall who wins in the aesthetic department. I'm trying to fight my biases here, guys, but I think my biases are just simply based on the fact that SOTA is a phenom. I don't I don't see it being even close, frankly, in terms of the paint or sculpt or anything really aesthetically. Overall, I think the SOTA blows the JADA one out of the water. JADA's going to get their comeuppance. No, the other way around. Whatever the saying is, they're going to come back. They're going to hit back in a second here. But so far, the accessories are very close, right to the edge. There, JADA is just behind by one hand. But in terms of the aesthetic, I don't think the JADA one comes even close, completely regardless of the stylization. I'm not judging that. I'm simply judging the fact that it's a really soft sculpt with minimal paint. And the SOTA one has so much more going for it in terms of that. Okay, now, now we have to talk about the articulation. And before I do that, I'm just going to mention, there is one other Guile, which is the SH Figuarts Guile. And we're going to talk about him at the end, because we don't want to include him in this video. Alright, so let's talk about the articulation. Once again, we'll start with the SOTA. It's older, and so I'm giving it its chance to show off. They did do ball pegs for the neck. Very limited ball peg, but it is in there, so that's a good design. Ball hinge for the shoulder. By the way, this is it's been sitting in the bin for years, so we'll see how the joints function. They were iffy at best in the beginning. Their plastic is really nice, though, I have to say. It's fragile as hell, and it gets stuck a lot. It's typically because of the paint, but the plastic they used was a nice PVC. The figures are nice to handle. But yeah, ball hinge shoulders, basically your full range. Nothing really problematic there. Bicep swivel is fine, but due to the sculpt, having the big triceps and whatnot, it does get in the way. So you're going to have some limitations there. Single jointed elbow, definitely a limited thing. Obviously, one joint is going to be more limited. Having a wrist swivel and hinge in this style, not the best looking. It's functional enough, of course, but it's definitely not the best looking, and it is clearly very dated. We do have an old school ab crunch with the peg visible. You don't see that these days, so yeah, his age is showing. Can it function? Is it stuck? Well, it'll lean forward. Heavily ratcheted. Yeah, he's pretty stuck. So the reason I'm not really worried about him being stuck and worried about freeing him up is I know he's getting blown out of the water here. It's not even close. Yeah, pretty limited torso. It's there. You do get a waist twist. That's fine. Like, it's still decent enough looking articulation other than the wrist cuts, but it's still very, very limited. Ball hinge, like old school ball hinge, full-on ball hinge hips. They do get quite loose on almost every SOTA figure, so be aware of that if you are out shopping. Decent enough range. It's not too bad, but it's not great. And then bringing the leg forward definitely is not the best. They did not cut away enough at the crotch to give them good range, so that is quite limited. You do get a thigh swivel though. Double jointed knees are fine. They work okay. All right, we do have pins on a lot of the joints for the SOTA figure. That is a sign of the times. You can hold it against them if you want to. In the aesthetic department, I was going to save it for the articulation department, but yeah, I guess aesthetic would have made more sense. All right, we do get a boot swivel, so that's there, and then you get nice enough ankle range. You get a well, like I said, it's an older figure. You get this joint for the foot. It's usable. It is certainly not something I would like to ever see again. SOTA, a couple companies did this, but SOTA did this almost exclusively on these figures, and it's certainly not ideal. And then the toe hinge is not the worst thing we've ever seen, but it is not a good thing. So his articulation, I would say, it's certainly not up to modern standards. It was certainly good enough back then, and I think most people were willing to sacrifice some articulation for the overall benefit of the aesthetic. I would still say that's a fair enough argument, but his articulation is certainly not winning anyone over. It will be the absolute bare minimum of acceptable. Now this guy, we just reviewed him, he poses like a son of a gun. He can pose really well. We have a lot more joints on this guy. We have the neck articulation in addition to the ball pegs in the head, so yeah, he can move around really well. Now his neck doesn't work that well, but it is there. For the shoulders, they're basically the same functionality, except we also get a butterfly joint, so that really helps a lot. We have the double jointed elbow. Again, that helps, well, I shouldn't say a lot, because he's still kind of thick, but you do get the double jointed elbow, and then you get the wrist swivel and a hinge, which is much better executed here. For the torso, we have the diaphragm. He's so much lighter than the other one. I have to do this. We have the diaphragm ball pegs and then the lower ball pegs, so it's a whole different setup. better range overall, just in the same range. You do get your twist, of course, but then you also get the leaning side to side. Like, it's not even close. Hands down, this is better. Blown out of the water. As good as Guile is at looking good, this one is maybe as good, if not better, at posing in terms of the difference in quality of looking good. Maybe you get what I'm saying. Okay, so for the hips, yeah, way better range, better looking hips too, for sure. They go farther in every direction, and they look better, and you get your thigh swivel, so you can't, it's not even close. It's not a fair fight at all. This would be like, I don't know, the best person ever at something fighting one of the most average persons ever. Same boots. Now, we have this issue though. His ankles are about the same. You get an ankle rocker, mine's stuck. No toe hinge, which I know is a big deal. I've actually had quite a few people comment on the JADA figures not having a toe hinge. Now, as a rule, I'm not really a toe hinge sort of guy. I think they cost too much to produce, and most often, it's because they don't serve that much purpose. But for fighting game characters, the toe hinge is kind of important. To put Guile in his fighter stance, you need a toe hinge. This guy doesn't have it. So, he does lose in the toe hinge department, but in every other department, he wins. By a lot. It's not even close. The JADA Guile poses circles around the SOTA Guile. It's really not a fair fight. So, we've talked about the accessories, we talked about the looks, we talked about the articulation. This is basically the same stuff I do in all my reviews now anyway, and I think it's safe to say who did it better? It depends. If you want a figure that looks really good, other than looking at the articulation, it looks good enough that it could look like a brand new figure at really any period in time, SOTA. SOTA wins by a mile in terms of quality of the aesthetic. Accessories, I think, are close enough. We'll not even say one did it better. I did earlier, but it's just so barely that it doesn't really matter. But then in terms of articulation, JADA blows SOTA out of the water. So it really comes down to, do you want it to pose well or look good? And of course, you have a lot of subjectivity in terms of the looks. You might prefer the way this one looks. I'm just talking about what went into the actual figure. I do prefer this one. I like the color scheme better. I like that there's more paint. I like the stylization of the sculpt, short of the shoulders mostly. To me, the boots and pants really bring it to life. The proportioning is much better. Things like that. I prefer this one, and I do think this one is better, but I'm putting it all on the table. You might prefer this. That's fine. And if that's the case, if you think this one looks better, then this guy wins hands down because he poses crazy good compared to this one. But yeah, I can't say someone did it better overall because each one has a very strong point. And I think that's going to be the case for most of these videos, but I'll probably keep making them if you guys want to. SOTA looks so damn good, by today's standards even, but especially for a 20-year-old figure. It's amazing to me. And then JADA just poses so much better. So that's the verdict on these two. We do have one other figure I told you I would talk about briefly, and I will do that because I am a man of my word. I can't say who did it better overall, though. You have to pick. Now, we do have to talk about this guy. Hey, SH Figuarts. One of these costs more than both of those. Even if you're talking secondhand prices, probably, well, I don't know. These guys have been incredibly expensive at times. Either way, this guy's extremely expensive and worse in every category. There are benefits. I still enjoy the figure personally. I don't even think he has more accessories, frankly. He might, well, he has 3 faces. Yeah, okay, he has more accessories. So he does win the accessory game, but he's also a lot smaller and weirder looking. And while technically his sculpt has more detail to it, I think it's a really weird sculpt, a goofy sculpt. His paints are there, but they're not good either. His dog tags are built onto him. He just isn't a contender, guys. I'm sorry, if you're an import guy, I mean, I'm like half an import guy. It's just not even close. There's no reason to buy this over those, other than to have extra that buy it in addition to. But definitely don't pick this Guile. Don't pick this Guile. Don't pick this Guile. They're not even in contention. It's one of these two, for sure. He doesn't even pose better. These two win in every way. So, that's the final verdict. I can't say who did it better. They did different things better. Now, if you want to edge one out based on age, then sure, SOTA wins. Because at 20 years ago, this thing was incredible. And in modern day times, the JADA one is really good. I think SOTA has the lead. I don't think this is going to hold up in 20 years. That's a long ass time, guys. This does in a lot of ways. So there's some I guess we'll just say subjectivity to it. But I can't say. I would definitely give the looks to this and the posing to this, and that's where we have to leave it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Did you like this video? Would you like more videos like this? It doesn't have to be the Street Fighter figures. It could be other things too, if I have the figures still. But that's the best I can do. I wasn't really expecting to be so split down the middle. I kind of had a hunch, but yeah, that figure holds up really well for 20 years. I just can't get over it. When I pulled him out of the box, I haven't seen it in probably 10 years. I was like, wow, man, that's... When SOTA was on, they were on. And I think JADA has kind of hobbled themselves with that really specific stylization. So if you happen to like it, that's great, but it's a hard choice. I am curious, let me know, does anybody out there actually prefer the way this looks to this? And if you do, is it like an overall thing, or is it just like I don't like his face or something like that? Let me know. Okay, yeah, anyway, I'm done. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos basically every single day, and I do have thousands of videos already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.